All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of my Pro Wrestling Society podcast. And today I'm going to be going over a couple of things. First off is the latest episode of Lucha Underground. And then I'm going to go over why tag teams suck and difference between Hollywood and wrestling writers. So with that in mind, let's get started. Didn't care about what happened in the latest episode of Lucha Underground. I skipped most of it. The only thing I watched was the attack between Mil Muertes and Mac and Matanza against Johnny Mundo and another guy. Not impressive. Mil Muertes, I don't even know why they're feuding. Like, why are they even feuding? Like, it's not main event worthy to have Mil Muertes go up against what's his name? Mac. And Matanza, I don't even know. It's kind of trash, honestly. Like, these feuds are just so half baked. It's like there's no substance to them, you know. Like, okay, so he ruins their wedding, but that's just not Matanza's character. You know, they're just butchering his character. Like, he should be going up against people like Pentagon Dark or somebody, like, you know, in a in the Cerro Miedo match instead of Marty the Moth. Like, come on now, this is just ridiculous. Like, I think Lucha Underground's getting the wrong people in the show. Like I said before, you should just cut out people, like, takes people out, you know, like. But it's because a lot of people, like good people, I already left, so they're leaving us with the really trashy people that just don't even need to be there. So it's going down the drain. Hopefully, by the main event, things will be better, but I doubt it. So, got that out of the way. So now I'm going with the Hollywood. I mean, actually, why tag teams suck, and this is why they suck, and why I don't like them. Because if you look at what happened, like tag teams in the past, you know, Dudley's, the Hardys, Brothers of Destruction, who else? A whole bunch of them. Like, they had good chemistry. They knew how to work as a team. They knew how to do, you know, do these crazy moves that, like, so well together. Like, it was just flawless, straight up, you know, signature moves, like, followed by finishers. It just worked so well together. You know, they were inseparable. People memorized them, you know, for who they were and the characters and stuff like that. And you know, stuff like that. So now they're just putting out guys that don't really have any substance. Like, they're just putting two random people, and they hope that, or they think that it's going to work out, but it's not, you know. Like, there's no chemistry, there's no appeal, there's no substance, you know, none of that. Like, it's just, you could tell that there's no teamwork, like, at all, like no identity, nothing like that. Like I remember watching Lucha Underground, and they put Phoenix together with some other dude, some random dude, and it was, you could tell they didn't work well as a team. Like, um, I think they put him with Pentagon Junior, and they had him. The tag team stable was called the Lucha Brothers, and I looked at their matches, some of their matches, and you could tell that they just didn't work well together. You know, like completely different, opposite characters. Um, so you know, it just didn't make sense to me. Pentagon is a kind of like a tweener kind of guy. He's kind of, sometimes he's heel, sometimes he's not. And Phoenix is a face, so they just don't work well together. You know, like completely different characters. So, um, you know, look at guys like The Undertaker and Kane. They were similar in character. Like uh they were both heels at one point, you know. Even though it's not explicitly stated that Undertaker is a heel or a face, but you can tell that he just doesn't give a crap from the way he wrestles and stuff like that. Like he's not a fan. He's not a hero looking for recognition from the fans. And that's why most tag teams suck, because you know they got either one guy doing everything or the other guy not doing enough or whatnot. So it's just no harmony, you know. And I think a good tag team should have like a working relationship. Like you should be able to tell that they are an actual tag team. You know, like look at Mexicools. Look at how well they work together. You know, they're inseparable. Um, a bunch of tag teams are actually inseparable. So that's all I got to say about that. Um, and now I'm gonna get into the difference between Hollywood and wrestling writers. And this is why people need to understand this. They need to understand that there's a huge difference between wrestling writers and Hollywood writers, because people seem to think that it's the same thing. Wrestling is scripted, and therefore it makes no difference whether there's Hollywood writers or you know there's wrestling writers, and that's simply not true. Because before I get into why it's not true, like it's ridiculous how, from what I heard, Vince McMahon hired TV writers, Hollywood writers for the WWE, and that was straight up horrible. And that's why I think that's why the product sucks so bad, because of that trash decision. So here's why it doesn't work out. TV writers focus on drama in almost any context. So for example, like they could pick a desert, they could pick uh you know, space, outer space, who knows, like stuff, you know how they do. And the characters, you know, there's a whole wide range of characters and stuff that they can pick from. Like have a lot of, they have room to pretty much mold the story around. And with wrestling, the writers tend to focus mostly on the sporting context of the entire show. So They kind of can do the same thing in a way, but it's more limited. Um, like they can't have like intergalactic wars and stuff like that, and stuff that you could do with actual movies and stuff like that, and like have wars and stuff like, you know, all this crazy stuff that you see in TV, and have uh, you know, and so that's one of the differences. They got to keep it within a sporting context. Like both wrestlers have to wrestle, actually wrestle in a way, like whether it's technical wrestling or hardcore wrestling, whatever the case may be. They can still have some degree of characters, but it can't be too out there where it's outside of the sporting context. You know, it's got to be in the ring, and um, and they have to compete. So next is TV writers give explicit directions to actors, and while pro wrestlers have the freedom to do whatever they want if there's good wrestling writers. So, for example, you know, TV writers, they hand out scripts, hand out dialogues. They tell actors what to do. They tell them what to say and how they're going to do it. And if the actor can't do something, then they hire a stuntman or something like that. And that's not to say that wrestlers don't do the same thing, but it's very limited. Very limited. They the only stuntman I know is one used by Sting in his match, where he climbed up the stage and he fell down during his feud with Vampiro. I know that was the stuntman, I think. Um, so who else? And yeah, so yeah, I mean, and actors, they rehearse and rehearse the scenes over and over again. So it's it's actually more scripted than wrestling, because in wrestling the wrestlers have to do everything. They can't script anything because they don't have time. If you're on a tight schedule, you don't have time to plan absolutely everything out. You gotta improvise. You gotta make a rough sketch of what you plan to do. And in the good old days, they would just speak whatever's on their mind. Like there was no script when it came to cutting promos. There was no script to. I mean, the only script there was during the scripted segments, you know, that sports entertainment puts out nowadays. But before, in the early days of pro wrestling, there's really no script to anything. Um, it's all on the spot. So, um, so the writers, just what they do is they basically just um, again put everything in a sporting context. Like they try to build everything up through you know, week by week, um, through segments, promos, um, yeah, segments, promos, stuff like that. Maybe some some changes and during the matches or whatever the case may be, but it's not, they don't have complete control over it because the wrestlers still have to put in the work. The writers just give out ideas. They might give out ideas like Vince Russo did to his people he worked with, but it's really up to the wrestlers to make those ideas work based on what he said. So, so yeah, pretty much the differences between wrestling writers and Hollywood writers. And the reason why it doesn't, and the last reason why it doesn't work is because you see, you can't tell wrestlers what to do. Like, they have to be the ones to do it. They have to have, it's their responsibility to be creative, to build up characters, to cut good promos, to wrestle, not, you know, not be handed down any script. Because that's really what made wrestling great. Is everyone did their own thing, and that was that, you know. And so when you try to mold wrestlers into who you want them to be, what ends up happening is you just got randomness. Like you got one guy dressing up as, like, I don't know, like Pentagon Jr., for example, and then he says something on the mic that's completely scripted. It's not from the heart, and you can tell it's fake, and it's not actually part of the character. You know, it doesn't go well with the character, and that's how you know it's just a jumbled up mess. So, so what ends up happening is you got a guy dressed up in a costume, you know, just reading a bunch of lines that are just the complete opposite of his character, and maybe his moves reflect something else, something random, like just completely, you know, different from his promos and his costume. It just gives a totally warped, you know, view of, it's like, who is this guy? So you don't know who he is. He doesn't have a consistent character. So it's just messed up. So it's that's why you can't have TV writers doing writing wrestling, because they just don't get it. You know, they don't understand the business. They don't understand how it works. They work more with choreography, like Hollywood kind of choreography. They don't really understand, you know, they don't treat wrestling as a legit sport or sports entertainment. And wrestling is different than Hollywood entertainment for those reasons. So it's pretty bad to have Hollywood writers controlling everything that goes on in wrestling. There's my little rant. Hope you guys enjoyed this. You know, leave your thoughts below. If you like this video, like it, subscribe to my channel. I'd like to know what you guys think. And I'll see you later.